know why he looks like a Marine. He's not a Marine. He's an elf. Why doesn't he have long flowing elven locks like every other elf in every other fantasy IP except for this version of Marines? It really bothers me. Welcome to a Nomine, celebration of my favorite tabletop role-playing games. This Nomine YouTube channel is a sister channel to Evil Live. Subscribe if you're new to the channel because today we're reviewing Firefly, the role-playing game core book. Actual core book this time. Not the unboxing, which I thought was the core book, which actually wasn't. My initial thoughts of Firefly are... I really don't like the system, the Cortex cinematic system that they've got. It seems needlessly convoluted, like genuinely weird. And I don't know. I guess a couple people like it. I'm just not one of them. So that's my initial thoughts. This was published by Margaret Weis Productions way back in January 13th, 2015. It was written by Jack Weis, Margaret Valentellini, Monica Truman, Mark Diaz-Conway, Brendan Gilbert, and Dean Norris. I don't know why they have it listed that way, but they do, and so that's how I read it. It's actually award-winning, too, which blew my mind. So in 2014, it was the second runner-up for the Golden Geek Awards Game of the Year. 2014, the Escapist Game of the Year nominee. 2015, Any nominee for Best Game. 2015, Any nominee for Product of the Year. 2015, Origins Award nominee. And 2015, Any Judges Spotlight Award winner for Echoes of War Thrilling Heroics, which I guess is a supplement. In any case... yeah, not really for me. So this is set in the 26th century. This is the future of human evolution, right? Ostensibly, hey Chris, how you doing, man? I'm not gonna run this game. After reading how to play it and the mechanics, it's not for me. But anyway, this is like the future version of humans, right? So they don't remember Earth anymore. Like in the history, they sort of destroyed Earth and they had to leave it as a planet. And they ran into like 3 different distinct regions with each of them having like different planets and stuff. And they just sort of spun out from there. There's this Anglo-Sino alliance which rules all of the core worlds. And then there was a Unification War a few years prior to the beginning of this game. Which was basically the Battle of Serenity Valley, and it was the last major confrontation which cemented the Alliance's rule, and the Browncoats, or the Independents, who were fighting for freedom from the Alliance, lost. And so this is a war-torn, human-centric galaxy that you're basically going through on. So this is based off of the one-season series Firefly by Joss Whedon. I think Joss Whedon is a weirdo personally, but I think Firefly the TV show was great fun. I had a lot of really good fun with that. I was alerted to its existence when I was in college, and a friend lent me his box set of it. And I remember seeing commercials for it when it was in its original run, but I never just got around to watching it. And so watching it on DVDs after the fact and just doing one after another, it's a great show, and it's a lot of fun to watch. I just wish the game itself was set up more to be more fun. I love the way that they have this sort of mix of Mandarin and English, because ultimately in the game world, the Chinese had like dominated the world or something on the Earth that they forgot about. And so it just sort of broke into the vernacular. And so you have this sort of like phraseology that's intermixed with, it's like Spanglish, but it's Mandarin. So it's Mandarin-ish? I don't know. Mixed. And it's just a fun way of, having a sense of culture amid all of these different regions of space. And it's like mixed technology. So there's the baseline technology that the Alliance has on all the core worlds, but the further away you get from the core worlds, the more primitive it is. And it almost feels like a mix between like Old West, like old Western, 19th century technology with high technology, in a sci-fi spacefaring world. And that's kind of a fun mixture for me. It reminds me of like a mix between Briscoe County Jr. and Star Wars. which if you've never seen Briscoe County Jr., you're missing out because Bruce Campbell's dope in everything he does. But I really like that little Western comedy season because he had, even in that, there was like this little orb, which is like a sci-fi element, which sort of drove the entire plot line of it. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. So you have this really built out universe in Firefly. It got canceled after season 1, and then ultimately it was picked up in years later, a film named Serenity, which was the first version of this role-playing game that was released because they could only get the license from it, the Serenity film. And then once the Firefly license came up, Margaret Weis Productions purchased that, and then had the entire system sort of built around their own Cortex version, which there's like a primitive Cortex version of the game system that was showcased in Serenity, and in Firefly they went to full cinematic system. So let me talk about this Cortex system because it's at the core of everything of this game, and it's why I don't like this game. So you basically have your dice, which run D4, D6, D8, D10, and D12, and you create, for every action you want to do, you look at your stats and you add like one of your assets, you add, well, hold on, it's an attribute, a skill, and a miscellaneous. So you could have up to like, 12 dice, ostensibly, at some, for some insane reason, and you roll them all, and you just choose the 2 highest numbers of all of the dice that you rolled, and you add those 2 highest numbers together, and that is your either defense or attack die roll. And then the other person has to then roll and try to get over or, to stop you or whatever. And that's it. That's the whole mechanic. But there's no built-in difficulty numbers. So, for example, if you wanted to, jump over a hurdle for some reason, as a lifelong GM, DM character, in this it would be a director, you would then say, okay, well, the difficulty of jumping over a hurdle is maybe 10. So just roll over a 10. In this case, they build their own die pool every single time for every single action. There's no like set, this is what you roll for this type of an action. So they have to like convince you of the reasons why they're using these dice. And then they all roll the dice, and then they pick the 2 highest, and if it happens to get over the difficulty number, then they succeed. Well, that's not how it is in this. The DM has to roll every time. He has to generate his own die pool for every resisted action, every single time. And so he has to make up in his head, well, I guess I'm going to use a die for D6 because of this. I'm going to use a D4 because of this, a D8 because of this. And every single... Can you imagine how long this takes for you to come up with justification for what dice you're going to put together in a pool that you're then going to roll? So there's no statistical baseline built into this game. For example, the hurdle jump. It would be a D10 for Sue, Benny, and Frank. No matter what. Everyone, if you want to jump over that hurdle, you have to roll over a 10. Not in this game. In this game, for Sue, it might be 3. For Frank, it might be 25, depending on what you roll. It's completely arbitrary, which is frustrating because that means that there's no grounded reality. It's all just willy-nilly up in the air, up to the dice. The stupidest game mechanic I've ever run across in my life. You have to have a baseline norm for everyone else to have to understand. That way you build on the norm to, you sort of judge it by, well, this person is stronger, so they're going to have an easier time of jumping over it than this other person who is weaker. But in this game system, it's completely random. And I know there's people that are going to like that. I'm not one of them. I think it's dumb. You always like the idea that Chinese culture and language permeated everything. It makes sense when you see how China had made such strides in the real world compared to the U.S., sadly. We're still the only first world nation, man. Like, China's still trying to catch up to us militarily, so they're not really as great as everyone says they are. They got the numbers. We got the guns. All right, so the fact that you don't have specific rules for, like, a baseline of rules to judge actions off of drives me insane. But then, the way this book is, like, built out is pure and utter nonsense. So you're first brought into the book, and it's doing episode recaps of every single episode, even the unaired episodes of the Firefly TV show. That's the whole premise of this game. You're playing the actors, not the actors, but the characters in the series. And it's all framed around the TV show. Like, what kind of a limiting, boring-ass frame is that? Why wouldn't you just have, well, they're one group, you're your own? And they do eventually get to the point where they're like, oh, but if you don't want to use these characters, then you can use these templates, like Star Wars West End Games did, where they gave you character templates to sort of choose from and then customize from that jumping off point. And then they also tell you, well, if you don't like the templates, then you can just make your own characters. Why don't you start from making your own characters? Why don't you just start from that point? Because that's what everyone's going to do anyway. I don't know anyone who wants to play pre-gen characters. It's funny because I run another YouTube channel based around a whole campaign world that started from pre-gen characters. Ironically. But I actually don't like running other people's characters. I'd rather just make my own and run my own. So that bugs me too. Which is, here's the other ironic thing. Margaret Weis is the person who wrote those novels. And she is, one of the founders of that entire world narratively. The other channel that I run in Dragonlance versus this, where she's just the producer of it. And she actually just likes the IP. And so, she purchased the licensing and had other people design the game around it. So that stuff bugs me too. I don't like that aspect of having to read through every damn episode, because the way they present this is they explain the rules of the game through retelling of every episode. So you have to sit through and read every single episode recap in order to understand how to play this game. It is so frustrating and annoying. It's just, I've already watched the series. I don't want to read the series. I already know it. Just tell me the goddamn rules of this game. Like, fuck. So stupid. All right, so after you get through all of that, it doesn't actually give you all the rules that you need to play the game. So then you have to continue reading, and then it gets to like the different character builds, and it, so the playing character section, it would be the equivalent of like a player's handbook chapter. Where it explains everything for the players that they need to know. And then it gets to the GM section where it explains everything else. But again, you have to kind of reference back and forth to get all of the information that you need in order to play this damn game. Of which the whole time, like, there has to be a baseline rule system, right? There has to be a baseline something. But no, it's all random. It's all just you build the die pool, you roll it, and you cross your fingers. Oh yeah. And there's no hit points. There's no damage. There's nothing like that. They reference it as complications. So if you as a player roll a 1 or more than 1-1, the GM assigns a complication to you. That complication may be, oh, you broke your leg. Sorry, you now have a broken leg. And you just role play as if you have a broken leg now. And they go straight up to say, you don't actually kill the characters. The characters are heroes. They're supposed to have these great cinematic moments, so you don't kill them. Well, if there's no consequence, what's the point? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And yes, you can make the argument that, well, those complications are the result of consequences. But it's random. And you can even make the argument that, yeah, but an enemy being able to hit you is random. But there's intention there. There's a baseline mechanical structure there. There isn't in this game at all. It's 100% just like, oh, well, if you tell me that I have a broken leg, well, I'm going to use a plot point die, and I'm going to reduce that broken leg so I no longer have the broken leg. And they just do that. That's how you heal. That's how you resolve complications. You just use... And here's the other thing. This is driving me insane. I hate this game system. You have poker chips in this. And these poker chips represent plot points. So it's basically like an inspiration or a force point or something in any other game, right? So when a character does something that the GM or the director likes, they toss them a poker chip and they're like, here's your plot point. And then at any point in the game, the character can then use that plot point to benefit themselves, to reduce the severity of a complication. And the complications are all assigned dice numbers as well. So this is a D4 complication. This is a D6 complication. This is D8 complication. And so if you want to get rid of a complication, i.e. a broken leg, a hole in your lung, like whatever it is, you just use a plot point. It reduces it 1 die. Once you get down to D4 and reduce it more, then it's gone. That's pretty much it. And so like there's literally no lasting consequences. And they say, well, if there's going to be character death, you need to have a conversation with your players to make sure that they understand that that's on the table. Have you ever played a tabletop role-playing game before? Ever? Death is always on the table. Because you know what? Death is on the table in life. For us. Why would it not be if we're a fictional character going through a universe? What if you just get sucked into the vacuum of space? Well, here's a complication. You can't breathe. Oh, well, here's a plot point card. A poker chip. Now I can. Meh, meh, meh. Get the fuck out of here. That's the stupidest shit I ever heard in my life. Oh, and that's not all. There's also no such thing as equipment at all. At any point during the game, you as a character can spend a plot point to create what they call an asset, which would be a gun. And that lasts for the duration of the encounter. And then it just disappears. It just doesn't exist anymore. You can have special assets, which are long-lasting, but only you can use them. So if you have this special asset of a gun, you get a complication which knocks you out temporarily. Your friend can't just run over, pick up the gun, and start using it. Because it's your signature asset. Ugh. It's so stupid. I can't believe anyone approved this to be developed into an actual published, and it would actually explain why it's no longer around. Like, fully. It's not even on Drive-Thru RPG anymore. Like, it just doesn't exist. It's so frustrating reading through this, trying to understand how this stuff actually actively works in a game session. So I sat down, and I went to a thing called YouTube. You may have heard of it. And I searched up Firefly Actual Play, and it came up with a bunch of examples of people playing the game. And I sat down for about 3.5 seconds watching, and I could not take it. It's so bad. So, I will never run this game. Never. And I know there's going to be fans of this game that are like, you just didn't get it. It's so much more fluid and simple than any other role-playing game out there. Okay, well, if you like it, good. Good for you. Enjoy it. I'm not trying to take your ball and go home. Enjoy what you like. That's what life's all about. I'm not going to try to take it away from you. But I am going to tell you that I don't like it. And these are the reasons why I don't like it. It pits the GM directly against the characters in every single case. And I know that there's people who play like that, where you're the player and you're like, oh, the GM's constantly trying to kill me, or they're constantly against me. But that's not how I like to run my games. I am a storyteller with the characters. I let the dice do the arbitration. I set up a scene, the players run through the scene and influence it and change it and shape it in ways that I never expected them to, and then I adjust on the fly based on how they're reacting and how the scene unfolds. That's how I've always gamed and always run games. And so, like, I'm not actively against you, but in this game, I'm actively against you. And I don't like the framing of that, because in every single option, I'm rolling against you. Because there's no baseline of difficulty numbers or difficulty class or anything like that. It's just, well, here, I'm going to build a dice pool. I'm going to roll it. And I'm going to try to get you. I'm going to try to get you a complication. And you're going to try to get out of the complication. I just don't like it. I hate this whole thing. This whole gaming system sucks. And the thing is I like the IP. I love the films. I mean, I love the film. I thought the film was great. I love this series. I think the series was great. I love the universe. I think the universe is great. But this game system, the Cortex game system, is garbage. Hot, stinking garbage. And I cannot abide it. at all. So it ruins the entire game for me. And it took me almost 2 full weeks to read through because it sucked so bad that I didn't even want to go back to it. I'm like, well, I might as well just review it. I'll just sit back down. I'll read a few more pages and, I got to get away from it. This sucks so bad. Which actually makes me like the show less because of how bad this game represents it through the gaming system of the Cortex system. So that's my review. I could go into specifics more, but I don't care that much. I did not have a good time reading through this manual. It was not cut and dry clear to me. I don't like the idea that there's no consequences. I don't like the idea that it's adversarial between the game master and the players. I don't like the fact that you have to build a dice pool for every single action every single time. I think that's ridiculous. There should be a baseline ability for everything. And if I was going to ever run a Firefly game, I wouldn't do it in this system. I would just use another game system to do it in and have fun with it. Because this is not fun to me at all. And I can't imagine a universe where people are sitting around and having fun with it. I know there is. I know they do exist. I know that they do. But I can't wrap my head around it. And maybe it is because I haven't played it. And that's fair. That would be a fair critique. You haven't played it, how can you say? I'm only basing this on the core rulebook of reading it. And I'm pissed that I spent $40 to buy a supplement that I thought was the core rules because all the damn graphic design and all the covers of all these goddamn Firefly games look the exact same. And that's disingenuous for us people who are purchasing them because we don't know which one's which. I have to you say, well, it says core book on the bottom. Duh. Yeah, but if it's not in print and I'm looking through an eBay listing and it just says Firefly Roleplaying Game on the top of every single goddamn one with the same fucking image, well, yeah, you can easily make the mistake. And it's because I never played it before, I didn't know it had to say core book. Ugh. I think, you know what would be a good system? Would be the Wizards of the Coast had the license for Star Wars role-playing game, and they created a system called the Saga system. I know it's not the card Saga system that the Wizards of the Coast used for Marvel superheroes and Dragonlance. It's very much like 4th edition actually, D&D, but it's for Star Wars. I think that would be a really great D20 system for Firefly. I think that'd be a fun one to play it in. It doesn't sound good. You haven't been disappointed by a review since your wife's review the morning after your wedding night. How can 4 minutes be disappointing? Braggart. 4 minutes. Jeez. Lasting forever there. Yeah, I don't know. I would probably run it in probably Star Wars Saga edition system. I think that would be a pretty good facsimile for it. I could just make up my own D20 system and just play in that, or do Tracy Hickman's XD20 and just, sort of do it on the fly. Because the system itself should not be a barrier to whatever IP you want to play. The system should be fluid. And because there's no magic, you could literally use any system you want and just run with this game. But there should be equipment. There should be baseline game mechanics. And because those don't exist in this, I can't rationalize ever trying to play it or even desiring to. Because the whole time you're just like, oh, well, fuck, I could really use a gun. Well, here, let me create an asset and we'll give that asset a D4 and we'll just see, and that asset will just disappear. So apparently equipment just vanishes into the atmosphere when you're done using it in a scene. It's just so nonsensical. I don't know. I don't get it. The card system would even be better. The Saga system card system would be better than this Cortex system. All right, I do like they have a system, a whole chapter on GM advice on how to sort of do a Firefly game. That's, I think, useful. Anytime you get GM advice, I think it's useful because you just take little pieces that you like and discard the rest, and that's what I did with this. I thought that was a good part. It does have its own adventure in it, which I appreciate. Oh, yeah. Oh, I didn't even talk about experience. Oh, sweet hell. This is dumb. Okay. Oh, God. So there's no hit points, like I said. There's no experience, like I said. None. None at all. You know what their experience markers are? Episodes. An episode is an adventure. So if you wanted to improve one of your die for one of your abilities or skills or something, you would mark down after every adventure, you have an adventure name, and so you just mark down the adventure name. And then if you wanted to improve a die, you would then mark off that adventure name because you spent that adventure in order to raise a die on one of your skills. And different skills and abilities have different die limits. If you want to make a signature asset out of an adventure, out of one of your sessions, your episodes, you just do that, and you just mark them off. So you have to play adventure. So the idea of playing an adventure to get more experience, to improve yourself, makes logical sense. That's how all games work. But to trade in the encounter or the adventure itself is so strange. It's such a strange way of doing it. And it does kind of remind me of Star Wars, the role-playing game, where you're given skill points and then you burn those skill points. But in this particular case, it's not skill points. And you only get one per episode. And so you have to bank up a bunch of sessions so that you can then sell those sessions in to improve your skills. It's so stupid. It makes no sense. Ugh. This is what you would get if you had a theater troupe build a game system. They're just like, well, why do we need anything? Let's just play, use poker chips and just willy-nilly make up. So this is like an improv troupe built this game system. Ugh. Someone throw out a situation and throw out a name. That's the whole game. No one likes improv except for improv actors. No one else likes them. Role-playing has aspects of improv, but there's a baseline game mechanic underneath it to help direct that improv. That's why it's enjoyable. If it's all just improv, you're just annoying. Ugh. Yeah, it's just a classic case of trying to reinvent the wheel so that you can sell something. And it clearly didn't work because they don't sell it anymore. It just sucks. All right. Well, look. If you love this game, my hat's off to you. Love what you love. I'm not here to judge you. I'm just telling you how I feel. But I would really like to hear why you like this game system if you do. Not to mock you, not to argue with you, just to understand. That's the type of human I am. I would like to understand why you like this game system if you like it. So please let me know in the comments. And I get if you don't want to tell me because I don't like it. We're tribal animals. That's what we do. But if you're open to an open discourse and just telling me why you like it, I would love to hear it. And I think it would benefit other people who come and watch this review as well to get a different perspective than my own about this particular role-playing game. So please put a comment in there and let me know. Let me know what you love about this particular role-playing game. I will not make fun of you. I will not shut you down. I would love to hear, like, genuinely why. So that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I usually only want to run role-playing games that I'm going to enjoy, which is why I won't run this one. But I do want to run this IP because I do enjoy the IP a lot. Firefly as a movie and as a series. So maybe I will run it in one of the Star Wars game systems. And I think it would fluidly, mesh together really well with it. Or I'm actually developing, and I'm going to be starting this, I think tomorrow I'm going to do a live stream on a campaign setting that I'm developing myself. And I've actually created some basic game mechanics for it because I was thinking like it's a system agnostic campaign setting. It's a fantasy campaign setting that's system agnostic. You can run it in whatever game system. If you want to use Pathfinder, fine, use Pathfinder. If you want to use Dungeons & Dragons, whatever edition, do that. It doesn't matter. It's just a campaign setting that's detailed and has a bunch of history and, it's sort of in depth and everything. But I also, in case you wanted to just run through it, create a game system at the baseline that you could use just to get a taste of the system. So I've already started that. So maybe I'll just use that, my own game system, in order to run a Firefly game, since there's no like magic with it. You know, this Firefly game, it's all just like real world stuff. So I could use a Nomine game system. I could use the one that I'm developing. You know, whatever. Interesting things to come on this channel, though. I hope they're interesting. I think they will be, and I hope you'd love it. So, yeah, Chris, I'm with you. We have to play it, just not this game system. We'll figure out a way. We'll figure something out. I really do think I'll end up doing the Saga, Star Wars Saga rule set for it. That'll be the easiest, or maybe just an XD, you know, XD 2 2nd edition. Because that's a super stripped down basic game system that you can just do whatever you want with it. And I think it would probably fit well with that too. So I don't know. We'll put a pin in it. Firefly is on the horizon. We still love Firefly. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, remember the evil spelled backwards is live. So get out there and be evil.